Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farmweek, look for a dry, warm winter in the south due to La Nina.
We'll have an update on the USDA's office closing plan.
In southern gardening, camellias. They've been around for a long time, and that's one reason you should consider them for your landscape.
In the markets, traders hope China's demand for U.S. cotton will increase as export sales hold up beef and pork prices at the farm gate.
In the feature segment, we'll review the year 2011 in U.S. agriculture. It was a year marked by extremes.
Trade numbers just published show that for calendar year 2010, China was our #1 export market, edging out Canada and accounting for a little over 15% of exports.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
The Pacific Ocean weather phenomenon known as La Nina appears to be peaking.
Well, Leighton, La Nina is sometimes called the diva of drought. It appears that the southern tier of the United States could be in for a dry winter. No word yet on whether this will extend into the summer. NASA reports that La Nina conditions are intensifying in the equatorial area of the Pacific Ocean. During La Nina periods, the surface is characterized by cooler than normal surface temperatures. Now, scientists say that present La Nina conditions will probably mean a dry, relatively rainless winter in the south, the southwest, and southern California. This could deepen drought conditions in the southwest. The Pacific Northwest could see a stormy, wet winter. NASA says it's not known at this time whether La Nina will peak this winter or strengthen. Previous reports indicated it might peak by the end of February. It's not unusual for La Ninas to repeat, so the fact that we had one in 2011 doesn't mean that we won't have one in 2012.
We have more this week on President Obama's plan to trim costs at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The USDA announced last week it wants to close 259 offices nationwide. 11 of those would be in Mississippi. Market to Market's Mark Pearson reports that while the proposed cuts may seem large, they're actually small compared to the entire USDA budget.
Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack says the goal of the cuts is to save $150 million. The plan would close 259 offices, labs, and other facilities in 46 states and would include cuts at USDA headquarters in Washington, D.C.
We have fewer dollars, we have fewer workers, and our workload is increased.
According to USDA, more than 7,000 employees took early retirement in the past year, but Vilsack does not expect widespread layoffs. Some position closures will occur in the management and support staff in the Food Safety Inspection Service, but not in inspector or inspection work. Agricultural Research, Farm Service Agency, and Rural Development are other programs expected to be impacted. But Vilsack says belt tightening does not mean service to producers will be adversely affected.
They should be reassured that our commitment is to increase and to strengthen that service. Our hope is that by making these tough calls and tough choices, we'll be in a position to avoid furloughs, avoid layoffs that would disrupt service, and to continue to invest in technology that will make service over time far more conveniently available to farmers, ranchers, and producers.
Vilsack says he hopes the success of 2011 trade agreements with Panama, Colombia, and South Korea will help break down other trade barriers this year.
I think it sets the stage for us to look at what barriers that currently exist in other Asian countries, for example, and use the Korean experience as a way of maybe breaking those barriers down, specifically in the beef trade area with China and Japan.
With the battle over the next farm bill looming on the horizon, Vilsack stresses the need for an agricultural safety net, but he says election year politics will not impact USDA's mission.
The great thing about USDA is we've been historically a bipartisan, non-political, if you will, agency, and that will continue so long as I'm secretary. We know we have a responsibility to all the people of the United States, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of the time of year or the time of the campaign. We want to do our job.
While the $150 million in cuts announced this week are nothing to sneeze at, the reduction works out to about 0.1% of USDA's annual $145 billion budget.
Before USDA office can be closed, a public hearing must be held. Those hearings are currently being scheduled here in Mississippi.
In this week's Southern Gardening segment, we have a traditional southern plant that can be both colorful and beautiful in the wintertime. Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman says the beautiful camellia can brighten any cool season landscape.
Camellias are those true southern treasures that provide color and beauty that brighten the cool season landscape. Today I'm visiting with Webb Hart and enjoying his collection of gorgeous camellias. There are two main species of camellia that can be planted and enjoyed in landscapes all across Mississippi: Camellia japonica and Camellia sasanqua. Camellia japonica, or Japanese camellia, is best known for its large flowers, which can be 5 inches across. But there are several variations of flowers. With its bright pink petals with minor red highlights, in the pink is a formal double flower. Julio Nucio variegated is a double flower with pink and white spotted petals. Royal Velvet is a double with dark red petals with contrasting yellow stamens. The other species is Camellia sasanqua, or Sasanqua camellia. This begins blooming before Camellia japonica with smaller flowers, but in far greater numbers. Leslie Ann is a double flower type with white petals trimmed in deep pink. Yuletide, with its bright red petals, is an example of a single flower type. The peony-type flowers of pink snow displays its frilly light pink petals. Camellia sasanqua is more tolerant of environmental conditions and have more versatility in the landscape, such as tolerating more direct sunlight. As a general rule, camellias will have the best flowering when grown in at least partial shade. The falling needles and other leaves provide a beneficial mulch, reducing weeding and maintaining consistent moisture. There are several thousand named camellia varieties, which means you'll have lots to choose from at your local nursery. I'm Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Leighton Gary says that camellias can be made to produce extra big early blooms by applying the plant growth hormone gibberellic acid, and I've seen it, boy, and it really does make them pop out.
Yeah, I heard of that.
In the feature segment, we'll look back at the year 2011 in American agriculture. It was a remarkable year, if only because of the extremes of weather and prices. Time now for the markets with Leighton. Leighton, you say ethanol, American ethanol has claimed a record.
That's right, Artis. Exports of U.S.-made ethanol during November were the most for any month ever. That is our top story. Also had this week in the markets, estimates of lower cotton plantings in China boost the cotton market some. Exports continue to lag, though, for U.S. rice, while the supply situation in the beef sector may help cattle prices. We begin with a quick look back at November, a month when the U.S. ethanol industry set a record. 152.5 million gallons left the country, almost half of it bound for Brazil. The latest numbers also show that for the first 11 months of last year, exports topped 1 billion gallons. A spokesperson for the Renewable Fuels Association says American ethanol producers are the lowest cost provider of motor fuel today and have ample supplies available to help meet demand around the globe. News out of China early this week that country's cotton acreage may decrease gave fiber prices a shot in the arm. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley discussed the potential impact this development may have during a conversation with me Wednesday afternoon. Our starting point, though, was the January 12th crop numbers for cotton. John Michael, was the news for cotton in the latest USDA reports much of a surprise?
It doesn't really appear that way. A lot of what happened that day was a surprise in other markets and probably filtered over into to what took place in the cotton market for the day. But the report was mostly expected for the most part. the USDA did raise cotton ending stocks from 3.5 million bales to 3.7 in the most recent report, largely due to a drop in exports, which is a phenomenon that's been taking place for the last couple of months of 2011. As the U.S. dollar strengthened versus other currencies, we saw some exports start to drop off, and that took place in the cotton market as well. And as a result, you know, the higher ending stocks did put some pressure on the day, but for the most part, the pressure came from outside markets.
All right, apparently there's a chance exports may be picking up. There's news out of China that has really lifted the market this week. Is that right?
That is correct. China has definitely come into the market. A couple of things taking place. First of all, their production last year, they're revising it up, the China statistics. But what's really kind of helping markets out is they're making projections about 2012 plantings, and it's expected that those plantings in China are going to be down about 10.5%. On the same day yesterday, U.S. imports came in lower or they were reduced from 2010, and that really bolstered prices yesterday. So some good news from the global front with respect to cotton in yesterday's reports.
Because foreign sales have kind of been the uncertainty, right, as far as this market in particular.
It's definitely been the silver lining in a lot of, for the most part, for the past couple of years. It's starting to ease off a little bit due to some global economic concerns, but yesterday's news was a positive front on the foreign sales market.
So what kind of signals is the market sending producers now as they, talk about what they may or may not plant this spring?
Well, we are seeing a reduction in competing acres, or in competing prices for acres. Not a whole lot changed. Cotton prices have increased, which should buy some acres, but it's all going to see what happens as we move forward for the next couple of months.
The rice sector may be wishing it could buy some acres for spring. At midweek this week, Arkansas Farm Bureau ag economists noted price declines for rice after a price spike. Export sales of U.S. rice continue to lag well behind last year. Analysts say current price levels suggest that rice may lose acreage to corn and soybeans here in the Mid-South. Well, a trend we mentioned last week as far as ammonia prices continues to be apparent across the entire retail fertilizer market in general. Prices continue to slip according to DTN's retailer survey. Prices of 7 of the 8 major fertilizers edged lower for the 7th straight week. Well, before we move into the livestock markets, how about our trivia quiz for this week? Here is the question: how much of Mississippi's 2011 soybean crop will be exported? It's your choice: 23%, 47%, 69%, or 87%. You'll find out in only a couple more minutes.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar and the second part of the markets. Leighton Span reports on the outlook for higher cattle prices. U.S. beef and pork exports are on a record pace. In the feature segment today, 2011, the agricultural year in review. United States agriculture saw record exports and record weather damage.
MSUcares.com is a popular website offering coordinated access to Mississippi State University's research and extension system. Now we have a Spanish language version of MSUcares.com where you'll find newsletters, brochures, and publications. Plus, you can view Spanish language videos on topics including credit, finances, and immunization. Visit MSUcares.com today and click on the En Español link for useful Spanish language information.
I've got a lot of choices to make in the coming years, and I really want to make sure that I get it all right. I want to discover who I am, where I belong, what my dreams are. I want to find my hidden talents and see where those skills can take me in the future. I need leadership given today to help me make the right decisions tomorrow, and I have that with Mississippi 4-H.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. Mid-America Farm Publications is producing its 15th annual Ag Production Conference. That's January 31st and February 1st. Cotton, rice, corn, and soybeans will be covered, as well as precision agriculture. The location is Harris Casino Convention Center at Tunica. Anyone interested in getting involved in therapeutic riding is urged to attend a meeting on Tuesday, February 7th in Jackson. The Mississippi Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship will host the meeting. It takes place at 1 p.m. in the Equine Center at the Mississippi Fairgrounds. The meeting is open to members and individuals considering developing an equine therapy program in their area. Topics will include starting and sustaining a program, instructor certification, and local program updates. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now let's check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
There seems to be optimism among many analysts here in the latter part of January as far as the future price picture for the fed cattle market. Trader Elaine Cubb told Market to Market's Mark Pearson recently that the fed market is set up to run very possibly throughout the year of 2012.
This is the time frame where seasonally you would expect to see the market sort of fall back. But I think that $120 level on the futures board, I think, has been demonstrated that there's enough buying support to keep the market above that. And we always talk about the supply shortage of beef in the U.S. right now. The herd is very small, smaller than it's been since the 1970s. But what's been interesting recently is that it's not just the number of animals, it's the carcass weights that are also coming in shorter than we would expect. And so that is also a very bullish supply argument to keep live cattle prices higher.
At the top of the markets, we mentioned the explosive pace of ethanol exports. Well, U.S. meat exports also set records in the 11th month of last year. In November 2011, pork exports were up over 22% compared to the year before. U.S. beef shipments out of the country were 35% above November 2010. The U.S. Meat Export Federation says that when December results are in, U.S. beef export value will likely eclipse the $5 billion mark for the first time ever. In preparation for our feature story, let's conclude here with a look at the trivia answer. D is the correct answer for this quiz. 87% of Mississippi's soybean crop from 2011 will be exported. This according to the Mississippi Soybean Promotion Board.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed when farm tractors overturn. Don't become a statistic. Avoid rollovers by staying away from steep ditches and pond banks. Slow down and operate tractors at a safe angle to the slope of the terrain. Always keep loader buckets low when transporting materials and inspect the work area for obstacles such as stumps, holes, or washes. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
In the feature segment today, we look back at the year 2011 for U.S. agriculture. In a few weeks, we'll look at 2011 in Mississippi agriculture. Across the nation, it was a time of great row crop prices, but many areas suffered weather damage ranging from tornadoes to drought to hurricanes. Market to Market's John Nichols reports.
2011 began in much the same fashion as its immediate predecessors, as the global economy struggled to recover from the worst downturn since the Great Depression. State and federal budgets were swimming in red ink. The U.S. unemployment rate stood at 9.4%, and energy costs were on the rise. In January, the EPA approved increased blends of ethanol for use in vehicles made in 2001 and beyond. The blend of 15% ethanol and 85% gasoline, commonly known as E15, had previously been approved for newer vehicles built after 2007. But the expiration of key government supports loomed on the horizon. And once again, America's predominant alternative fuel was blamed for everything from rising food prices to wasteful government spending. Renewable energy proponents pointed out that prices at the pump would have been significantly higher were it not for domestically produced ethanol. And at a Senate hearing, industry experts testified on how agriculture could help reduce dependence on foreign oil.
We analyzed what would happen if we planted double crops in about 1/3 of our corn and soy land. We found that by doing this one simple thing, we could produce about 100 billion gallons of ethanol, roughly the amount of gasoline we import, provide all the food and animal feed the land currently produces, improve soil quality and biodiversity, and reduce total U.S. greenhouse gas emissions by 10%. A very pretty picture at last, a win-win-win for national security, economic security, and climate security.
America's fragile economic recovery garnered most of the headlines in 2011. But in farm country, prospects were looking up. In February, the Agriculture Department estimated U.S. farm exports would reach a record $135.5 billion. That beat the previous record set in 2008 and pushed the agricultural trade surplus to an all-time high of $47.5 billion.
Trade numbers just published show that for calendar year 2010, China was our #1 export market, edging out Canada and accounting for a little over 15% of exports.
One of the Obama administration's chief trade priorities for 2011 focused on 3 unilateral trade agreements with South Korea, Colombia, and Panama. The agreement with South Korea alone is the largest accord since the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, in 1994. When Congress finally ratified the languishing deal in October, the White House estimated the agreement would increase U.S. exports by $13 billion, create tens of thousands of jobs, and make 95% of American goods duty-free in South Korea within 5 years.
For our farmers and ranchers here in the United States, it will increase exports of agricultural products. And I'm very pleased that it'll help level the playing field for American automakers.
At this time, a tsunami engulfing such a large part of the area.
While new doors opened in some countries, the term trade barrier took on a whole new meaning in March when a massive earthquake unleashed a deadly tsunami on the island nation of Japan, devastating everything in its path. Japan is the largest importer of U.S. corn and pork and the 3rd largest foreign market for American beef. While U.S. manufacturers endured considerable supply chain delays, Japan quickly resumed corn and soybean purchases at a faster pace than in 2010. While most domestic weather issues in 2011 paled in comparison to the tsunami in Japan, Mother Nature smashed the record for U.S. weather disasters as losses in 12 calamities exceeded the $1 billion mark. Damages from the deadly dozen alone piled up to a staggering $52 billion, matching the total for all of the 1980s, even when adjusted for inflation. Tornadoes accounted for half of the record-breaking disasters, as a steady stream of lethal twisters roared across dozens of states. Other natural disasters also devastated large geographical areas, particularly in the South, where record-breaking drought decimated crops and livestock. Damages from the arid conditions are estimated at nearly $10 billion. Where it wasn't too dry in 2011, there's a good chance it was too wet. Flooding caused significant damage along the Missouri River, as waterlogged levees failed after being weakened by flooding, which, in some cases, lasted for months. When combined with losses along the Mouse River in Minot, North Dakota, America's swollen waterways racked up more than $6 billion in damages. Amidst Mother Nature's fury, America's farmers somehow managed to plant 92.3 million acres in corn. That's the second most corn planting since World War II, and is only 1% lower than the all-time record set in 2007. In June, tight supplies and strong demand pushed corn prices to record highs as the nearby July contract came within a whisker of $8 per bushel. In December, USDA officials estimated net farm income would rise 28% this year to nearly $101 billion. And for the first time, U.S. crop sales were predicted to exceed $200 billion. Livestock producers also were expected to enjoy increased revenue, with estimated sales of $165 billion. Citing low interest rates and a healthy farm economy, the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City estimated in November that average farmland values in the Midwest increased 25% over the past year, marking the largest single-year gain in 3 decades. While farmers enjoyed record or near record commodity prices, land values, and net farm income at some point in 2011, the outlook for 2012 is anything but certain. Legislative negotiators had hoped to include Farm Bill reforms in a massive super committee plan to trim costs and overhaul the structure of federal farm programs. But the not-so-super committee failed to agree on a package of spending cuts and revenue increases, reducing the deficit by $1.2 trillion over 10 years. The collapse triggered automatic spending cuts beginning in 2013 and left farm programs in limbo. The proposed 2012 Farm Bill, ripe with already conceded budget cuts, could become an election year vehicle for all kinds of agendas, including unemployment benefit extensions, new tax cuts, and even fresh stimulus spending. And with the battle over the next Farm Bill looming on the horizon, agriculture and rural America itself could be caught up in the political fray more than ever before. For Market to Market, I'm John Nichols.
Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, 4-H shooting sports in Mississippi.
Some couldn't imagine encouraging young people to be around firearms. Those involved in 4-H shooting sports say it teaches them how to handle firearms safely, and it's just plain fun. These sisters could give Robin Hood some competition.
In Southern Gardening, how to spruce up your winter landscape. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artis Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.